Welcome to GED Mastery. Let's talk about functions. So what is a function? It's a type of relation where each x value is related to only one y value. So here's that definition stated three different ways. For every x, there is only one y. For each domain value, there's only one range value. And remember that domain corresponds to x and range corresponds to y, and domain and range are in alphabetical order just like x and y, so that can help you remember. For each input, there's only one output. Let's take a look at a set of points and see if it represents a function. So let's graph our first point, 5, 6. We'll go over 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and up 6, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So there's that point. Let's graph 2, 6. So over 2, up 6. So far we have a function. And then we have 3, 4. So over 3 and up 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. And we still have a function because we could do a vertical line test and we would see that if we put a vertical line on the graph at any point, it would only touch our vertical line at one point. Okay, let's graph the last point, 3, 5. So over 3 and up 5. Here's our point right here. At this point, we can see that this is not a function because if we did the vertical line test here where x equals 3, it would touch our vertical line at two different points. So that's what makes it not a function, because for this x value, for 3, there's two different y values, but we can only have one y value for each x value. Which of the following is a function? So let's take a look at A first, and we're just going to look at the x values first. So we've got 0, 1, 2, and 3 for the x values. Remember, it goes x and then y. So since we have a different x value for each point, that means that each x value is only going to have one y value, so that is a function. Now let's just verify that the others are not a function. So for B, we've got 2, 5, 0, and 5 as the x values. So for 5, we have two different y values. Since 5 occurs twice, we'll look at the y values then, and since they have different y values, that means for that x value, there's two different y values, and that is not a function. For C, let's look at the x values, 2, -9, -9, and 0. So the x value, -9, repeats, and there's a different y value for each of those points. So for that x value, there's two different y values, and that makes it not a function. And D, we've got 2 repeating. We've got the number 2, and there's two different y values for the x value of 2. So that's what makes D not a function. Find the f of -3 for f of x equals 2x squared minus 5x minus 2. Now I put this in here because this is function notation, and it looks a little crazy, but it's actually not that hard. And what it means is whenever an x appears here, instead of x, you're going to substitute in -3 for x. So let's go ahead and do that here, and we can either write f of x or f of -3 equals what we're going to put, or we could call it y, because that's really what it is. So the f of -3, when x is -3, we're going to go ahead and substitute -3 everywhere. So 2 times -3 squared minus 5 times -3 minus 2. Now you could just enter this into your calculator like that. Make sure you have the parentheses in there, especially with this negative that's squared. But I don't have a calculator, so I'm just going to do it by hand. -3 times -3 is +9 times 2 is 18. And then we've got -5 times -3 which is positive 15. And I'm going to carry down this minus 2. 18 plus 15 is 33. And 33 minus 2 is 31. So when x is negative 3, this equals 31. This is also using function notation like the last question. So remember, that means what is the value of y, or what is the f of x, when x equals negative 2? So we want to look first in this column and find where x equals negative 2, and it's right here. And we could see that the f of x in that case would be negative 5. So our answer is negative 5. Which of the following is not a function? Okay, so we can do our vertical line test, and if we pass a vertical line all over the graph, if it crosses it at just one point, it is a function. So A is a function. We're looking for what's not a function. Let's do the vertical line test on B. It only crosses our line at one point everywhere, so it is a function. Now look at C. If we put a vertical line over the graph, it would touch it at every single point. It would be on top of it, basically. So since it doesn't pass the vertical line test, it is not a function. And let's just check D. If we put a vertical line and we passed it all over, it would only cross the graph at one point. So that is a function, and C is our answer. Which of the following is a function? Okay, let's do the vertical line test. If we did it here, it would cross our line at 2 points, 1, 2. That line's not completely vertical, but you get the idea. So since it's not a function, that's not the answer we're looking for this time. Let's look at C. If we did the vertical line test, it would cross at 2 points, not a function. D, we've got 2 points again, not a function. And that leaves B. If we put a vertical line and ran it all over the graph, it would only cross at 1 point each time. So that is a function. Which of the following is not a function? And we have all these tables with all these numbers, and it looks pretty crazy. But remember that we could just look at the x values, and if it has all different x values, it probably is a function. So let's look for a table that doesn't have all different x values. A has different x values, so let's rule that one out because that's a function. B has all different x values as well, so let's rule that out. C also has all different x values, so let's rule that out. And then D has 1 and 1, so it has the x value repeated, and for that x value, there's 2 different y values, and that's not a function, right? So that is our answer, D. Which of the following are not a function? Choose 2. So there's 2 choices that are not functions. Let's find them. So input is like x, and output is like y. So for every x, there can be only one y. Let's look at A. We've got the 0 pointing to 2 and 3. So for that x value, 0, we have 2 different y values. So that is not a function. We'll choose that one. Let's keep going. We've got all different x values. And even though 3 and 5 both have 4, that doesn't matter because you can have the same y value for different x values. You just can't have different y values for the same x value. And if you saw this in a graph, you'd have 3, 4, let's say here, and 5, 4, let's say here. So that would still pass the vertical line test. That's not posing an issue there. So that is a function, and we're not worried about that. All right, so same thing here. For all of the x values, there's the same y value, and if we saw that on a graph, 1, 6, let's say that's here, then 3, 6, that would be here, and 5, 6, that would be here. Those would all pass the vertical line test, So that is a function, and our last choice must be D. Let's look at it. Well, again, we've got 0 pointing to two different y values. So remember, on a graph, that would kind of look like, well, we've got 0, 0, and we've got 0, -1. So if we put a vertical line, it would cross that vertical line at 2 points, and that is not a function. So our two answer choices are A and D. Okay, let's take a quick quiz. Is this a function? Yes or no? If you said no, you are correct, because if we do our vertical line test over all of the points, here the vertical line would touch 2 points instead of just 1. So that means it's not a function, because for this x value, for the x value of 3, there are two different y values. Y is equal to 0 and y is equal to -1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So we have two different y values for one x value, and that's what makes it not a function. Let me know how you feel about functions now in the comments. You've got this.